All right. Hello, everybody. Rachel Onchain here with Onchain Media, coming to you today with a very interesting project. I have Mauricio from XMAQUINA, and this is a project I learned about recently. I'm very excited to dive in today. I do not know another project doing what they're doing. It's very awesome. By the way, Mauricio, your dog Chapo in the background is adorable. Love to see a Doge on our podcast today. And yeah, just super excited to have you on. We got the XMAQUINA green in the background, and we're ready to rock and roll.
Amazing. Yes, we're fully on brand. We got the dog here in the background. Yeah, excited to be here. Thanks for having me on. Really looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. Okay, so just to start, I'd love to dive into, just an introduction, sharing who you are, what your role is at XMAQUINA, and what makes you passionate about your work.
Yeah, sounds good. So I guess I can start with who I am. Yeah, my name is Mauricio, one of the founders at Ex Machina. I've been building in crypto for the past 7 years. I've spent a lot of time in BD, like so leading ecosystems and growth teams. I was at Ripple, and then I worked in the Cosmos ecosystem. It was mostly DeFi, and I was just kind of a bit bored of seeing all of the same things over and over again. And that's when I came across like the machine economy and Deepin and this whole sector where it's like essentially integrating real world assets like token incentivized networks and infrastructure. And it just made a lot of sense to me. It made sense that machines would use cryptocurrencies as payments. And then I started working at Peak Network, which is an L1 specifically meant to power the machine economy around 2.5 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago now. And then during my time there, I just seen the potential for a decentralized machine economy and all that Web3 could do to create a fairer and more resilient system in general for what is going to become a global infrastructure. Cities are becoming smarter every day, and it just made a lot of sense. So I went all into Ex Machina about a year and a half ago, and that was right when AI was becoming like super like ChatGPT was like the thing, right? It had just launched maybe 6 months before or
Wow.
something like that, and it was very clear that AI was just scaling and improving significantly on like a daily basis. And that's when I found my co-founder and we met at a conference, and we were like, this is going to happen, but then it's going to go physical. Like now it's going to be physical AI, and we kind of aligned on that. We became friends, started talking then. And then, yeah, I kind of came up with the concept for Ex Machina, and yeah, that's kind of a bit of background about myself.
I mean, it's a really good name, and I think, the timing, it sounds like a lightning in a bottle kind of moment for you guys. Doing this during the rise of ChatGPT, I mean, there's no denying it's everywhere now, so kind of leaning in the direction of AI and robotics, there's no stopping it. So you guys are getting involved, you're innovating, and I think that's a really awesome thing. And, also doing that while forming a DAO in the blockchain space, I mean, that's just awesome. So I'm curious, like at a high level, if you can break down what Ex Machina is and what problems does it solve?
Yeah, for sure. So the main issue was essentially that physical AI, like all of these companies, the next Magnificent Seven are probably going to be all AI or robotics companies, right? And there's no real way to access it as a retail or like just your everyday individual. You either have to be an accredited investor or some sort of fund or big enterprise to even have access to these companies that are essentially going to reshape economies, right? And that's kind of how this all started, right? My co-founder and I were super bullish, but we couldn't get into any of these deals or any of these companies. It's like, let's find a way. And we're already in crypto, right? We're crypto first, always been crypto first. So we're like, we got to find a way to open this up somehow, and make these private markets that are excluding retail and also limiting it. It's still limiting to even high net worth individuals, right? Like this geopolitical restrictions, and there's like, for example, US investors can't invest in China and vice versa. So there was just a lot of barriers, right? And we're like, how can we make something Web3 where global community can just participate in this? And then this is essentially the problem that we're solving. So we built two parts to the ecosystem. So it's a global machine economy DAO, like you mentioned. So essentially, this enables a global community to pool resources and then govern and allocate capital across physical AI. So essentially we're building this sort of proxy of physical AI, whether it's private robotics companies like Aptronic or Figure AI, or it's maybe some deep in infrastructure, right? There's companies like Reborn and Aoki and a few others that are doing positioning or the data sourcing to train these humanoid robots. And Deepin is a perfect model, right? Like if you're incentivizing people to gather data, but you can do it with a token, it's a lot cheaper than for Tesla to hire uh, and pay people $30 an hour to just put on a mocap suit and do that. You can do this at scale through the deep and through the crypto model. So it also makes a lot of sense. So it's robotic companies, it's deepens, and in the future we also plan to kind of own community owned RWAs, for example, revenue generating
Oh, that's
could be a
awesome.
vertical farm. This is still looking a bit into the future just because of legal regulation and so on. So like the fractionalization, the distribution of rewards, like we do have a system for our machine economy launchpad that works. Um, but this will be able to like hyperscale a machine economy in the long term. For example, just think like you could co-own from anywhere in the world a fraction of a vertical farm in the UAE producing locally grown strawberries, right? A market where you know it's there. People would love to have organic strawberries in Dubai. It just doesn't grow there. And you could basically co-own infrastructure. And now all these innovative business models that you're seeing, for example, the taxis by Tesla, where people are going to be able to pay subscriptions and add their car and put it to work. You're going to see this
Yes,
with
I've
vertical
I've wanted
farms.
to. They've given it to me for free before, but one day, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to see these types of models to help these startups hyperscale, right? And imagine you could own a fraction of that. So, like, let's say you own $10,000 worth of a vertical farm, and then you can go to like an Aave and borrow against it while it's still earning your 10% yield of whatever it's yielding. It's not going to be like this huge crypto upside. It's a real world asset producing revenue in the real world, but it's like capital efficiency. So you can take that. You only take into account the depreciation of the asset over time, and then you can use borrow against that capital and buy more machines. So then you're essentially owning this machine economy and getting real passive income from the rise of automation. And that's kind of our long-term vision. But yeah, we're starting as a DAO where we see the immediate value accrual right now, which is these private robotics companies that are essentially exploding.
Wow, so you're making this like more for the people, more for the members of the DAO, not for, a very centralized, corporate entity. So yeah, I think that sounds really awesome. And I feel like, you've dived into why or dove into why you've chosen this niche for your project, but I'm curious if there's anything specifically that has inspired you to focus on robotics and AI in the blockchain space.
Yeah, I think it's just gonna have the biggest impact on our lives, you know? It's like AI is already having a lot of impact, but it's gonna be tenfold that when it's physical, right? Because it's gonna basically replace labor over the next 15 years, starting with industry, right? And there's no real way for everybody to benefit from that. And if we all take this towards like the centralized approach where just the big enterprises are going to be able to own a stake and have a say in all of this growth of the machine economy, then we're going to be looking at like universal basic incomes, and we're essentially becoming dependent to the state and government and big tech. And we wanted to just build an alternative where we can actually, yeah, build the ecosystem and participate in the ecosystem as individuals rather than just watching from the sidelines. And that was like kind of what inspired us, right? Like, how can we make something that doesn't leave the people behind and doesn't end us in just the future where we're just essentially at the bowing down
You get
to our
it.
overlords, to our
You
overlords.
guys get it. And this isn't on my agenda for today, but I have to ask. I know there are a lot of concerns around AI and job displacement, and obviously robotics. Things like AI and robotics combined can help to do more like mundane tasks. And what is your take on how job displacement will affect the everyday person? And do you see like a positive to that?
Yeah, I think obviously we're starting in the place where there's a shortage of labor, so it's not like a direct as bad of an impact, right? Like there's a labor shortage. So we're kind of that's where most robotic companies that you're looking at are targeting now. Um, So it's essentially just fixing a need that's just not there, declining birth rates, aging population. So it's actually not really as impactful in a negative way, because it's just going to grow the economy. A lot of these companies are just be able to create more products at a cheaper rate, lowering the price of the products for consumers as well. So it's not all dark on that side. And I think there'll also be a lot of jobs that come from it because like these robots are gonna need to be built and designed, right? Like they're gonna be all over the place in the next 15 years, let's say, but they're gonna be all shapes, sizes, and gonna have to do different tasks, right? Some might be for specific tasks, some might be more general purpose. Like there are gonna be jobs and industries that get created off of this, right? There's gonna be new industries. Like what engineers are gonna build this? Who's going to um, basically design the factories for this. It'll still create a lot of industries. Sports, for example, they might be robotic sports as well. So like boxing, we already saw the first boxing fight. I think it was like a couple of weeks ago. Unitree held like a
Oh
first
wow,
humanoid
now I
boxing
gotta I
fight.
gotta look this up. Wait, so robotics boxing?
Yeah, you can look it up.
What's it called
Unitree.
again?
Unitree,
Unitree.
robotics, or just you can look at boxing. It'll come up. But essentially, it could create other sports, entertainment. There'll be opportunities to be. It's just creating new industries as a whole. So, of course, some things might be replaced, but there'll be work that comes from all of this new innovation and new technology.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. I haven't seen anything like this yet. Very cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
seriously, it's in everywhere now. Robotics and AI are just gonna permeate into so many different aspects of life. Do you see people having a robotic helper in their lives, like maybe 10, 15, 20 years from now?
yeah, 100%. I think 1X is a really interesting company. If you Yeah, if you look up 1X Technology as well, a really cool company who's building exactly that. It's like safe robots for the home. Um, and I think this will come like second. This won't be the first adoption. Like I think, like we were talking about enterprise and warehouses and yeah, just general industry automation will come first, but this will kind of be like the main consumer robot will come second, right? Robot that can basically do everything at the home. And I think this will also tie into healthcare, right? Whether it's taking care of an elder or actually just being in hospitals. And yeah, I think it'll have a really positive effect. But I think this comes later, right? First, we're going into the industrial revolution with the robots, and then
And
the
then
home
the
will come a little bit
nice
after.
to haves, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, there's so much potential with robotics. I mean, good on you for seeing the potential here. And yeah, I mean, I do want to kind of show real quick your website as well, and maybe go through that a bit.
Yeah,
Um,
and by the way, those two companies that we just showed are in our next vote that starts next week.
whoa.
So
Okay.
essentially, people can vote, like DAO members can vote, and we're now picking the top three companies that the DAO as a whole is most bullish on. So we curated a short list of seven, and the top three companies that we choose are essentially as a DAO is what we're going to start sourcing deals for. So then we'll make
That's so
essentially
cool.
investment. So 1X, that one they just saw is one of them on the list. So if you like that and you're bullish, come vote
I
on.
I do like that. I mean, it would be something to get used to, definitely. Just like having like a humanoid robot walking around your place. But then again, it could be really helpful. It could be really useful in a lot of ways. So yeah, I mean, I personally I want to get involved and like participate in this DAO. So we'll definitely talk about that. Okay, let's see. I'm actually going to share my screen really quick because you guys, the website is just a work of art. Their branding, whoever does their marketing is just, genius. It's all very beautiful. So yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about the website and share anything on here? I know we're going to talk about governance next and the DAO, if you want to touch on that here.
Yeah, so that's the branding is all our CMO and co-founder Jessica. So shout out to her. She's done a great job
Shout
with the
out to
brand.
Jessica.
Um, and yeah, I mean, the website is somewhere where people can go if they want to learn a bit more. So we have a page on the token, on the Deus Labs, which is basically our incubation hub where we can basically incubate companies and bring in other projects for physical AI and so on. So if you have ideas, we can also basically fund them through the DAO and help spin them off. We already have one that we're working on, so we'll release some news on like the first DAO incubation, essentially growing our ecosystem. So we have, if you scroll up a little bit
Mm-hmm.
to DAO contributors, all the way up to the top, DAO
Okay.
contributors, we have different working units. So you can apply to these different ones. So North Star Council for now is like the founding team.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of gearing the direction of the DAO, making sure we're following the DAO's constitution and so on. We have the scoring committee, which is our advisors, a top tier list of advisors. You'll see them if you scroll down as well. Execution engine is something that you can apply to as well. Yeah, so our advisors are pretty strong, like former Cisco CEO.
That's so
Awesome.
cool.
Yeah, so we have a big group of strong group of advisors, and their role is a scoring committee. So when we have these votes now, they vote and they give their opinion on all the votes, and then that way the DAO can also see the opinion of like industry experts, right? That what they're voting on, and they can guide their vote with proper with proper feedback from veterans in the space. Yeah, and essentially that's one of the units, right? That one's already full, the scoring committee, because we have that board of advisors, but
Mm-hmm.
we have the North Star Council, which is us, and then we have the execution engine. This is essentially the DAO, a unit that takes care of marketing and communications, and then also just general operations. So you can apply to kind of work for the DAO and contribute there. And then Deus Labs is this sort of incubation hub that just brings people together. If you're a researcher, if you're a robotics analyst, we can also contribute there and contribute to all of the stuff that we're doing on that side, on that front. And more news is coming on that Deus Labs, since we'll be launching something, in the coming months.
Ooh,
We'll let you know.
little alpha there, you guys.
Yeah, so in short, you can apply to basically join one of these units to contribute to the DAO, and it could either be some sort of token incentives for like bounties, or it could be actually like a full-time job, depending on your on the profile.
I also want to comment here that everything you've put together, this is no small feat. You've built a DAO at the intersection of robotics, AI, and crypto. You have an all-star team, obviously very, very great marketing and branding. How long did it take you to get to this point?
About a year and a half since we
Wow.
like went full time on this, but a lot of the work was actually legal, finding legal ways to kind of set up the infrastructure to make this possible. It all came down to sufficient decentralization. So the less power that like founding members would have, it meant the less likely this would be seen as a security or so on, because we're
Mm.
not making the choices ourselves, right? We've just created this ecosystem, and then it's really up for like voting, governance. And if you put the treasury on chain into a smart contract, then it's really becoming something that we're not in control of anymore. We just have a small percent of the tokens, less than the community. So then we can't really persuade, besides just having these DAO units that are just gearing the DAO in the right direction. So that was a lot of the work was legal, really, to get the infrastructure to work. Yeah.
Wow. Also, I just kind of spitballing here, but what if you had at some point, you have autonomous bots that are now a part of a DAO and making decisions? What laws and legal considerations would apply, to robotic DAO members? Is that something you could see happening in the future?
Yeah, I mean, the decision making we haven't thought about yet, but we have thought about like what if they could do if they could like basically trade their earnings and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
imagine you have like, let's just use as an example, like a robo cafe in an airport, right? Like this robo arms that
Yeah,
does
I've
this.
seen that in San Francisco.
Yeah,
Yeah.
imagine you put like a machine ID onto it on chain, basically give it its own wallet, and then its revenues, you basically on ramp them from their like Stripe, for example. Let's say they're getting their also the POS system, and then whatever they earn, you send it to their Stripe. Imagine they're able to then like trade their profits on like a decentralized exchange or become its own AI agent. So that's something we're looking at as well. Um, but I think it's a bit into the future. I mean, talking like 3, 4 years, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it could be cool, right? Could be something
Yeah,
interesting as
having
well.
having robots participate in a DAO. I mean, I don't think I've heard of anyone doing that yet. So it's such uncharted territory.
Yeah, that's just
Yeah.
general questions for the public now. It's not even for us, the DAO. It's like in general, like what are the rules for AI and,
Hmm.
and physical AI? Like we don't have them yet. So it's not really only our problem to solve. I think it's like a whole problem to solve for the entire world. or at least per
Absolutely.
country.
Yeah. Well, I am curious, we've gone into the website now, bulk of what you guys are doing, but I do want to talk more functionally about the DAO. So, can you take a moment to tell our viewers and listeners why your team has chosen to structure as a DAO, how that's benefited you, and maybe some challenges you've overcome?
Yeah, for sure. So why is very easy. It was the only way to do it with sufficient decentralization. Essentially, it was the way to make the project the most decentralized to then not be a security, right? Because when you're investing into different things, it's a bit gray line there, right? So that was the main thing. To accomplish what we wanted to accomplish, we needed to be very decentralized. And to reach that sufficient decentralization, the DAO structure made the most sense. So that is the main reason why we chose the DAO structure. And what challenges have we faced or are overcoming? Well, obviously, governance is complex, right? So we didn't invent like the legal system in different countries overnight. It takes time. And I think DAOs are the same thing. Luckily, I think like DAO tooling and infrastructure has come a long way over the last 3 to 4 years, to the point that
Totally.
we had a lot of case studies to look at what went wrong, what worked, what didn't work. And we kind of, yeah, we based our entire system from that. So that was the main thing. Like, it's like, so you got to just be smart, but then there is infrastructure
Absolutely.
there. So we said we're going to go with Aragon OSX, which is like the modular DAO stack for on-chain governance. And then basically Lido uses Optimism DAO. So like the biggest DAOs are using these contracts. And so it's basically battle tested. It's been audited over and over again. And essentially that's what we're doing. So like we're using a lot of the top tier infrastructure along the way, and then just customizing what we need to fit our needs. Then we introduced a V token model. So right now we have a different governance. So as you could tell, like we've already kicked off governance fully, but we don't even have a token live, like a TGE. So that's a bit confusing already. So what we've done is we've essentially, when we have these Genesis auctions, we haven't talked about this yet, but it's essentially how we raise funds for the DAO, and then we use that capital to allocate into these different robotics companies. Um, you're essentially seeding. So like, let's say we enabled for this auction is stable coins, right? It might be USDC. The next one could be Ethereum. We could do any crypto asset really. But let's say this USDC, you have a swap rate. So like you're saying for 22, for one USDC equals 22 days. It's like a swap rate. You go into our
Hmm.
dashboard and you swap. When you swap, what that does is it sends that money into the DAO treasury, and then that's governed by the DAO, and you get in return your governance token. What we've done until now, so these tokens are vested from TGE, so 33% are liquid at TGE, and the rest get vested over 12 months. So anyone who participates in the auction has the exact same terms, whether you're a VC or a community member or anything. So it's all fair on that side of things. But what we've done is that 33% liquid at TGE, you can already go to our Genesis dashboard and claim it. It's not transferable, so you can't move it from your wallet. You can't trade it on a DEX. You can't do anything. It's kind of locked in there, but it does allow you to vote on our proposals. So essentially, we've done that ahead of time to enable the DAO to be fully operational pre-TGE. Um, and that's another thing that we learned from DAO. So we've just been structuring this infrastructure, and when we TGE, we'll introduce a different governance structure, which is the V token model, similar to Curve, where you essentially have this other token. So when TGE happens, DAO members will have to vote to make the token from the auctions, like the DAOs token, transferable. And when that does happen, it's essentially at the same time we'll have exchange listings and everything else. This will make the token transferable. And what that means is when that happens, then we introduce we can move to a more on-chain governance with the full use of the token, right? Since before it was limited to not transferable, then we introduced V token. I'm getting into like the nitty gritty and the technical stuff, but essentially this is another way to protect the DAO and to make voting more inclusive, make people stake the token to have governance rights. And then this also helps with voter apathy, which has been a problem with DAOs. Like a lot of
Oh,
people
yeah,
just
we talked
have the
about
token.
this on a call. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we just been basically taking all the learnings and then we're evolving our governance with all the learnings. It takes a long time, a lot of research, and we're still going to have problems along the way. I think I don't think everything's going to be perfect, but that we're doing everything that we can and basically learning from everything that we've seen in the whole DAO space until today. So we have a pretty good advantage just not have been launching a DAO in like 2021, for example, and launching now.
Wow. Well, it really, the more I hear about it, the more I can tell this is very thought out, structured in a proper way. And, you've taken, lessons from the past, mistakes other projects have made, and you've made sure not to do that with your project. So I think, you have a very data backed and informed way of operating, which I think is really positive for your project and your team. So I'm very excited about this. I personally would love to continue supporting you guys. So all right, so we went over all, DAO strategy, governance. You answered my next question, which, just functionally, I wanted to ask if you have anything else to share on that functionally, how the dues token works, how DAO members can participate. I think you covered a lot of that, right?
Yeah, I covered most of it, but we do have an upcoming auction, which is essentially we had two previous auctions where we raised $1.5 million in those, and they both sold out. So now we have our third auction, which is opening on the 24th of June. So essentially, if you want to participate and take part in the DAO, this is essentially where you contribute. This next one is USDC. So you just need USDC on base, and you can participate in the auction. You basically swap that USDC, and you get your DAOs tokens right away. You'll be able to claim your 33% and then start voting. And like I said, we do have our vote next week to pick the next robotics company. So we're
Awesome.
moving governance quite quickly. And as soon as we have the three picks, then we go. The execution engine, that DAO unit, is like full move ahead, trying to find the deals. And when we do have a deal, then we would put another proposal forward. Let's say, okay, we found one into 1X, those robots in the home, right? We found an investment, these are the terms, blah, blah, blah. And then people have to vote on it. So then you start participating. And by default, we're building this treasury of different assets, and that's kind of tied to the token, right? If our total assets under management are appreciating, it kind of takes the market cap with it and so on. So you're essentially tied, you're getting exposure to this whole space. Yeah, and that's, yeah,
So
overview.
it's almost like, deploying capital that could benefit the DAO, almost like similar to a VC, like you're investing in projects and that could come back and benefit the DAO and different members.
Yeah, exactly. And then when we have an exit opportunity, like let's say one of these companies gets bought by Apple or another player, right? Then there's always there's exit opportunities, IPOs, for example. And then we get all this influx of cash back into the DAO. Then we vote as well on what we do with it. We either reinvest it into more companies, we can have a token buyback, we can do a staking program. So like if you've been staking for the past year, you get vested a percentage of it. So there's a lot that we can really do with it, and it all comes back to the same thing, like sufficient decentralization. So whether as long as we're all making the choices as a collective, then we're pretty much good to go.
I love it. Well, it sounds like you really understand the DAO ethos too. I mean, DAOs are the reason I first got involved in this space. I mean, they just like, working a traditional 9 to 5 and seeing like, wait, we can work in a different way. It was always very exciting for me, and it's really the reason why I got involved. So very exciting to see it's the light bulb went off for you there. And yeah, I know we are getting to the end of the episode here. I do want to touch on, previous milestones that your team has hit that you're proud of, and, what's to come on your roadmap. If you want to touch on, anything in the past you guys have accomplished and what's to come.
Yeah, I think biggest milestones until now have been, yeah, selling out those like two auctions really quickly. So that last auction that we had a month and a half ago, I think we had to extend it, so it sold out in 15 minutes, and then we had to extend another 250K because they just sold out too quickly. And then that sold out in like an hour and a half, I think. So just those two auctions selling out is like is big for us because we know there's demand and we know there's people, and then that brings a growing community. So then now our Discord was a lot busier after the second auction because we had a lot more contributors. And in general, just making our first DAO investment as well. So we've basically initiated a transaction to acquire shares in Aptronic. Don't know if you have time, but that's a really cool website if you want to pop it out.
I'd say,
Aptronic.
yeah, I don't have a hard stop. Let's do it.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, so this is just from the DAO portal, but we made our first investment as well from the DAO, which is Aptronic, really cool company. based out of Texas. They basically come from NASA background. They
Wow.
created the first NASA robot. Yeah, backed by Mercedes. They're using Google DeepMind, super strong team. And yeah, we've made our first allocation. So we invested 450K for 24,666 preferred shares. So this is really interesting. So you can see all of this here, and then you can also basically go to their website. Super solid.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
like I said,
awesome.
company. But yeah, this is one to keep an eye on, and yeah, that's one of the things that we're most excited on. So like we kicked off the full DAO, um, sold out the two auctions, and made the first investment. So we're trying to show that we're doing what we're doing before we do more auctions and so on. So trying to not just a launch with like a vision and a token, but try to like prove ourselves along the way. And I think this has been helpful, and we want to do the same thing with the next auction and just get exposure to more of these companies.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have a very solid roadmap. I mean, you're very tapped in on what's happening in the world of robotics and AI. So, yeah, I mean, I'm very bullish on this project, bullish on your team, and yeah, very excited to see the future of Ex Machina. So that being said, I know some folks, watching and listening might want to get connected with you. They might want to get involved in the project. What would you say are the best steps to get started and connect with you guys?
Yeah, well, we're super active on Discord since we have our forum, like our governance forum there as well. So like the founding team, everybody's active on Discord. You can always hop on if you want to speak to us directly. We have full-time mods as well. If you have any questions, you can open up a ticket. If you're having issue with anything, and yeah, I'm there as well. So you can ping me. You can also our DMs are always open on Twitter. So at XMAQUINA DAO. Yeah, you can just message us. That's pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, Mauricio, thank you so much for today, for coming on, for educating our viewers and listeners. This is the very first podcast on robotics, AI, and crypto. I'd love to have you back on and, continue growing with you guys. So where can folks find you on socials? And do you have any closing thoughts or words of wisdom you want to share before we drop?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. It's been really nice conversation. Yeah, love what you're doing. You're really
Thank
rattling
you.
up the base community. I
Oh,
see you on all the
yeah. Every
spaces.
day, full time now. Yeah.
Yeah, great to see. Where can you find us on socials? You can find us at Ex Machina DAO. And then you can also just jump on our Discord, which is discord.gg/Ex Machina. Yeah, everything else is on our website, xmachina.io. Last closing words of wisdom. We have two choices with the machine economy and everything that's going to happen with physical AI. Either we take like the super centralized approach and we become basically dependent on governments and the state and big tech, or we drive for open source and just more decentralized solutions. So always support the decentralized solutions, always support the open source models, and yeah, play your role in trying to make this a future where we can all benefit from and not just a few overlords.
Absolutely. Mic drop. If you could drop your mic, I would drop it right there. Mauricio, thank you so much. I feel like you really understand the ethos of decentralization, ethically scaling AI and robotics. It just sounds like you guys are really on the right path and very excited to see the future of Ex Machina. Thank you so much, Mauricio.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been a blast.
Awesome. And tell Chapo I said thanks. Thanks for the cameo too. I
Yeah,
don't know
he's
where he went.
he's
Oh.
he's sleeping over there. Still sleeping.
Always good to have a Doge on the podcast. That's good. I think that's good luck. So, it's
Yeah,
awesome, man.
amazing.
All right. Thanks so much.